So, welcome. I am Mark, and this is By Divine Design. Welcome to our weekly live transmission held every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So, today's session is going to be a little bit different in that they have finally, and by they I mean my guides, have finally revealed what my core method that I'm here to teach actually is. And we're going to experience it in a very compact, very concentrated way today within about 50 minutes. And then they're going to have me teach my first course on this. So I've been calling the course format I was going to use an 8x8, meaning about 8 people for 8 months, where we would gather weekly 8 weeks, not 8 months. We would gather weekly for 8 weeks, about 2-hour sessions. And so the first course is going to be on what I'm going to offer totally for free today, the whole 9 yards. In the course, we'll then break it down and then also explore all the possible ways it can be applied. Like you can use it for self-healing, you can use it for healing others, you can use it for healing your relationships and growing your abundance, helping your clients or your business associates. It can be applied in all kinds of different ways. And so we would go ahead and explore that. And the guides also explain that this is going to be the subject of my first book, which I've known for a while that I needed to start writing, but I kept saying, what's it going to be on? And it's going to be on what we're going to present today. So as just a little intro information on who I am. So my awakening, my first awakening experience happened when I was 19. So that's 64 years ago. And shortly thereafter is when I started channeling these various beings of light or forms of divinity. And over the years, it's been many different aspects of my divine self and or other divine beings that I've been channeling. And at this point, I just call them my guides. We work in oneness more often than not. Occasionally, this or that being will come forth and I'll alert you to the fact that that's who we're working with at that moment. But it's pretty fluid. And on the other side of the veil, I am one of this group. And we've been working together, for eons. So, like in 1996, I had a major shift. And that's a whole nother story. But to sum all of it is I quit working with clients. I quit being outward focused at all. And I studied under a Hindu guru for 14 years and went really, really deep in that practice. And then even after I left him, I was led to just be a hermit, to continue to work on the inner planes, be in meditation anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day. And I would start to see clients and the guides would just shut it down almost immediately. It's like, nope, stay the hermit, just work on the inner planes anonymously. And then a little over a year ago, they surprised me and they shifted, they pivoted and wanted me to pivot from the happy hermit to beginning to see clients again, put out videos. And I was like, well, at this point, I've studied so many processes and have so many different skills. Like, what's it going to look like? And they said, just start working with clients and we'll show you. So what they've shown me is I have easy access to pre-birth planning meetings, to the Akashic records, past, present, and future. I can help clear past lives, also can help you access any levels of mastery or divine gifts from past lives. I can help you clear, like anything related to the birth process, from the conception to in utero, to the birth process itself, to toddler years, clear traumas and awaken gifts throughout this timeline. I can track other dimensions an aspect of you might be stuck in, and then rescue that part of you. And of course, ancestors. I work a lot looking for where you might have low vibrational ancestral influences, and then we track who that is and help free them. It's usually somebody who's in a hellish abode of some sort, and never completed their death process, never went into the tunnel of light, never got to be reassociated with their spirit guides and who would help them understand what they just went through. And when you lift an ancestor like that, it really changes your life in very dramatic ways also. So anyhow, so I've been doing all that, and and then also helping people to access different levels of consciousness, like unity consciousness and Brahman consciousness and divine love consciousness. But over the last 3 days, the guides pulled all of this together for me and just said, okay, here's like the central teaching and the central method that you are here to share. And so everything I just explained, none of that's going away. I'm still going to continue to do one-on-ones and help people release trauma and open to their higher consciousness. But primarily, we'll be teaching this method, and because basically this has the ability to take you from your everyday consciousness, whatever that is, in any moment, take you into what I call the bliss, the bliss of your being, and then you can enrich that experience, which is already amazing, by bringing in love. And then that can propel you all the way into the center of divine love consciousness. And today's process is going to take 45 to 50 minutes to give you that journey, that experience. But with not much practice, you will be able to do this in 2 to 5 minutes, any moment of the day or night. It really is that easy. And you will find how you can move into this higher level of consciousness at will, and then remain in it for longer and longer periods of time, and then become permanently established in it. So you are living your human life from your divine nature, divine consciousness, as love, as bliss. So even those words, love and bliss, so they're essentially the same term, like two heads of the same coin. They always go together. But within bliss, also within love, but I'm going to talk about bliss. So bliss has many expressions. So when you're in the pure bliss of being, it's actually complete stillness. Almost to where, like, it essentially is no expression. And then there's, a gradient to more and more and more expression. And it's not like one's better than the other. It's divine. It's constantly shifting. But like as bliss takes more expression, it might become peace, contentment, fulfillment, um, joy, happiness, gratitude. And then it might just come right back to peace, to absolute stillness. And then mixing in love into all those also changes what your experience is. So we're going to be playing with that. You're going to be observing that. Um, okay, one other introductory piece of information they want me to share. We're going to be observing the objects of consciousness. So that includes things like thoughts, feelings or emotions, sensations, and really, if you break it all the way down, those are all sensations. Those are all experiences of either your outer senses, taste, touch, hearing, or your inner senses. So like if you are feeling uncomfortable in your body, that creates an internal sensation. And if then you have thoughts come to mind about that sensation, those thoughts are actually just another sensation in awareness. So sometimes I'll call them thoughts, sometimes feelings, sometimes sensations, sometimes objects of consciousness, but really, when you really get down to it, they're all the same thing. And as a human, they're almost always there in some way or another. Sometimes they're more subtle, they're more quiet, and sometimes they're more forward, they're louder. And that's also partly what we're going to play with today. Like if you hold out your hand and you look at your hand becomes foreground. And then if you bring your awareness, you also become aware of that, like the fuzzy background, all the objects in the background. And then you can switch where you're looking and let that background come in focus. And now the background actually has become foreground. And your hand now is fuzzy because it's in the background. And then you can bring your focus back to the hand. And part of the reason I'm giving you that example is also to show you how easy it is to shift your focus. So you can shift it to your hand, you can shift it across the room, you can shift it to your screen, you can shift it to your thoughts. And then what you're going to see soon is you can shift it between your thoughts. Because there's always a gap between your thoughts. There's always a gap between your sensations. There's always a gap between your feelings. They all come and go. They're all temporary. And the secret is the bliss of being is in those gaps, or is underneath those sensations, or behind them. Like you're just going to be playing with shifting from foreground to background. If the thoughts are in the foreground, then you look for or feel for or sense into what's the background to these thoughts. Because as infinite divine beings, our background all the time is divine bliss. But we only experience it when we focus on it. So the guides are giving me the go-ahead that we should start the actual experience. That's enough intro information. It'll just make it easier. Having that all been said, we can just do the experience more purely. Okay, let's just dive in. As always, this is a transmission of divine love consciousness. It is for your highest good and the highest good of all. So I am opening to the transmission, and the transmission actually is what will lead you, guide you, meditate you. And I just do my best to put words to what the transmission is doing to help you to track it a little more easily. And today, right now, it's staying in the background because it wants you to begin today's process from your usual everyday consciousness. So, however you find yourself now is perfect. And you're invited to just begin to observe whatever objects of consciousness are flowing through your mind, your system. You might notice them as sensations in the body or the sensation of the sound of my voice. You might notice any feelings, your overall mood, and you might notice thoughts. And all you need to do is observe. Notice whatever you're noticing. Just welcome whatever's arising in consciousness, in your awareness. With this method, there is never a need to force anything. You don't want to force your thoughts quiet. You don't want to repress any feelings. It's all about just welcoming, opening, and observing. And as you're observing, you may begin to notice there are gaps between the sensations. Just like there are gaps between the words I am speaking, allow yourself to begin to be a little more fascinated with the gaps, the openings. Or if you have a torrent of thoughts or feelings coming through, and it feels like there's no gaps, that's fine. That's fine. Just welcome that. And you might just look behind the thoughts or below or above the thoughts or feelings. And notice they are appearing in a space, an empty space. And just get fascinated with that space. Let yourself be interested. You might notice how your body relaxes and calms down as soon as you spend some moments with that emptiness. Because what I'm calling emptiness, it's empty of thoughts, it's empty of sensations, but it's actually who and what you truly are as an infinite divine being. It's what I call the bliss of your being. And if thoughts or other sensations rise again into your awareness, that's perfect, that's fine. You just welcome them again and look for that space. And then notice how the bliss of your being is showing up for you in that space. Is it the pure bliss that's completely still and quiet? Or does it have some level of expression, such as a quiet joy or peace? Or maybe it's showing up as appreciation for you, or well-being. So as long as you feel you're in touch with it, you just observe how the bliss of your being is showing up for you. And it might start one way and transform into a different expression. Your thoughts and sensations and feelings might move totally into the background for a few seconds, for a few minutes. Doesn't matter, because you're just going to remain as the observer. So the transmission is coming into you now to support this experience, to help amplify it so you can have your own more direct, tangible experience of welcoming the sensations, the objects of consciousness, when that is what's there, looking for the gaps or the space around the objects of consciousness. And then noticing, feeling into the bliss of your being that arises from that space. And some might question, isn't the bliss of being just another object of consciousness? And no, it is not an object. It is you, who you truly are. It is subject, and that subject being you. And it's not just in the gaps, and it's not just behind, underneath, or all around the objects of consciousness. It's actually at the center of all objects of consciousness. You are a infinite, omnipresent divine being. You are everywhere, even in the midst of your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations. So let's go through that one more time, just noticing any object of consciousness. And then notice how easily you can shift to observing the bliss of your own being. And now notice how you can maintain that awareness and also be aware of your whole physical body. So you're holding your physical body within the consciousness of the bliss of being. And notice you could bring your focus to your feet. So you're aware of your feet, and at the same time, you're aware of the bliss of your being. The bliss of your being is of the highest order possible. And what is highly ordered is highly healing. So as you observe the bliss of your being, and then focus on any part of your body, like if there's some part of you that's uncomfortable right now, bring that to mind while also observing the bliss of your being. And by doing this, you are bringing in the highest levels of consciousness, the highest levels of healing energies. Okay, let that go. If thinking comes up again, just observe that gently, easily. And as you're able to, just move your focus back to the bliss of being. Let what is normally background become foreground. And now just bring your location to mind, like the room you're in or the setting you're in. While also maintaining awareness of the bliss of being. So all about you, including your location, is being blessed with your own divine being. Again, just notice how the bliss of being is showing up for you in this moment. Quiet and still, or some level of expression. Okay. Now we're going to begin bringing in the quality of love. So bring to mind someone you love deeply. Could be a form of God or a divine being, guru or teacher. It could be a loved one in your life now or someone who's already passed on. It could even be a favorite pet. Parent, child, partner. So you're feeling into the love you share with this being, while also maintaining some awareness of your bliss of being. Just notice what the love is adding to your bliss of being experience. And you might even sense how this other is experiencing this bliss of being and love. And then let go of the person, but continue to be aware of the love you share. So you can just let the person fade from awareness while feeling that love, that shared love, and the bliss of your being. And let this fill your whole physical body now. Let your physical body bathe in this loving bliss. And if it starts to overflow out into the room all around you, just observe that, welcome that. Because divine loving bliss always must be shared, always, it's always expanding. It's always overflowing more and more and more. So it might be overflowing the building you're in or the place you are, the neighborhood you are in. And just let it continue to expand, to grow, perhaps to the size of your state or country. Of course, the more it grows, the more it wants to grow as it overtakes the whole planet now. The whole solar system is being enveloped in your loving bliss, the bliss of your being, the bliss of your divine love. Just allow yourself to imagine it flowing all the way out to the whole Milky Way, out to the whole material universe, out to the astral realms, the celestial abodes that are still within Maya or within creation, all the other dimensions that are still part of creation. And even though creation is infinite, you may begin to feel yourself hitting up against a boundary. This is the entrance to Brahman consciousness or absolute non existence. So we're just helping you to bring this bliss of being mixed with divine love through that boundary into non existence. Notice how that changes your experience. Like the bliss of your being most likely becomes very still, very quiet, very unexpressed. And a lot of teachers and paths would end it here. They're not aware of anything higher than this. But we're using Brahman consciousness more as a palate cleanser before the final grand course. So we're just going to move right through it. And there are divine, God realized beings that are now assisting you in entering the divine abode, where God has personality, God has form, God has qualities. God loves to interact as an equal. So you just continue to use the same method here. If you have thoughts, feelings, sensations coming into awareness, you just observe them and then look for the space around them, between them. So that leads you back to the bliss of your divine being and the love of your divine being. And now the home of your divine being. Everything here is made of loving bliss. Everything here is exquisitely beautiful. All the beings you meet here feel like you're meeting again with your closest friend. There's total familiarity, mutual sharing of charm and humor. And the awareness is here that at any moment, the absolute, supremely loving form of God could appear before you. Graciously taking the form that he or she knows you are most attracted to. Perhaps you're even experiencing that right now. And now we're going to take it another step of integrating. So take your time, but while observing whatever you're experiencing, of the loving bliss of your being here in the divine, at some point allow your eyes to open while maintaining this awareness. Allow yourself to look around the room, look at whatever's before you, noticing that you can maintain this connection to the divine abode, to the bliss of your being, even as you are awake and aware as a human here now in this lifetime. We're helping you, each of you, to find that configuration. And you might even try at times to actually get up and walk around while maintaining this multi-dimensional awareness of who and what you are as an infinite divine being in the divine realms, while also a human being here now in this dimension. And it's good for you to know as you practice this more and more often, you will soon be able to make this journey from everyday consciousness to full on divine love consciousness within 3 to 5 minutes. And then eventually within just a minute or two. And then eventually simply by choice. And you'll find you'll be able to maintain it as you go about your day. More and more. It's also good for you to know that each time you explore this, immerse yourself in it, more and more of your divine being comes back with you. More and more of who and what you truly are descends into this lifetime and can live through your human beingness consciously, bringing all that is here now. Okay, the guides and I are just gonna lift your energy, the energy of your whole energy system, even more, expand your system even more, so as much of this as possible can remain in your system. Opening the spine more, the flow up and down through your chakras, your central energy core. Looking for all the ways that we can help this integrate more permanently into your system. Of course, the heart chakra is primary, but we're also making sure your foundational chakras, first, second, and third chakra, are well established in this divine love, the bliss of your being. And then just also quickly recalibrating your upper chakras. Opening your third eye more to this divine knowing, divine awareness of who and what you are and where you come from. Focus is moved to the crown chakra, balancing, recalibrating, opening. all the chakras in perfect coordination with the heart chakra now. Okay, that's looking very good for everyone. So as you're ready, you're just invited to open your eyes to discover what your everyday consciousness is for you now and for the rest of your day. So the transmission will remain open and flowing, available to you. If at any time you wish to lower the volume or increase the volume or shut it off completely for a while, turn it back on, it's completely up to you, and it's just by simple intention. But from our side, we will leave it on. We encourage you to play with what you experienced today. No, we are going to break it down into smaller chunks and exercises. We will be posting more about that. And yeah, and that there's going to be a 8-week course on this. I'm going to create a form because you'll have to apply to that. The guides have an understanding of who best to be there in the first group. The first group might be about 8 to 10 people. So you can look forward to details on that. Okay, thank you all. It's so wonderful you joined. Blessings.